The rifle barrel pressed cold against her temple, but Nakoha didn't flinch. She'd buried one man she loved 6 months ago, watched him bleed out in her arms, while she could do nothing but scream. If this rancher pulled the trigger, at least she'd die with food in her hands, instead of shame in her heart. But when their eyes met across that storage shed, something cracked open inside both of them. He lowered his gun. She lowered her walls. And neither knew that this single moment of mercy would ignite a love so fierce her own people would come hunting with torches and blood in their eyes. Before we begin, subscribe to our channel and stay with this story until the end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this tale travels. Your support keeps these stories alive. Silas Brennan woke to silence. Same as every morning for 8 months since his father died, coughing blood into a tin basin, while Silas held his hand and lied about fetching the doctor. No doctor within 40 miles of this Colorado hellscape. Just wind and rock and endless sky that made a man feel small enough to disappear. 24 years old. Never kissed a woman. Never held one. Never knew what it felt like to wake up to anything but the sound of his own breathing, rattling around an empty house. The ranch stretched 300 acres his father had carved out of nothing with bleeding hands and a stubborn heart. Left Silas everything. Taught him nothing about how to fill the hollow spaces. He was measuring grain for the horses, hands moving through motions worn smooth by repetition, when he heard it. Scraping. Inside the supply shed. His hand found the rifle before his brain caught up, heart kicking against his ribs. Bandits hit the Morrison place 2 weeks back, burned it black. Left old Morrison tied to a cottonwood tree. Found him 3 days later. What the buzzards left anyway? Silas moved quiet across the yard. Morning sun cutting low, turning everything gold and sharp-edged. The shed door hung open like a broken jaw. Inside, shadow moved between sacks of cornmeal and salt pork. He raised the rifle, finger finding the trigger. Sweat already slicking his palms despite the cold. Then she stepped into the light, and every thought in his head went silent. Tall. Jesus, she was tall, 5'11", easy maybe more. Black hair in a braid thick as his wrist falling past her waist. Skin like burnished copper. Apache. Had to be. She wore leather and cloth worn soft with use, and across her back hung a bow with a quiver of arrows that looked like they'd seen plenty of work. She was stealing his winter stores with the calm of someone who'd done this before and would do it again, and didn't give a damn what he thought about it. Their eyes met. Hers were black as river stones at midnight. No fear in them, just calculation, measuring him, deciding if he was worth killing. Don't move. His voice came out harder than he felt. She didn't freeze, didn't run, just looked at him like he was a mild inconvenience. Then turned back to the sacks of dried venison. I said, don't move. I heard you. Her English carried an accent but was clear as creek water. She picked up a 20-pound sack one-handed like it weighed nothing. You going to shoot me? The question stopped him cold. Was he? She turned to face him full on. Waiting. Something in her expression, raw and haunted and familiar, hit him like a fist to the chest. He saw it in his mirror every morning when he shaved. The look of someone who'd lost everything and was still breathing anyway. You hungry? The words fell out before he could stop them. Her eyes narrowed. What? I asked if you're hungry. He lowered the rifle. Just a fraction. His hands were shaking, and he didn't know if it was fear or something else. You look half-starved. I look... She stopped. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. I am taking what I need. You cannot stop me. I know. Then why lower your weapon? Because shooting a starving woman doesn't sit right. He took a breath. Take what you need. But next time maybe knock first. For 5 full seconds, she just stared at him, like she was trying to puzzle out if this was a trick, what angle he was working. Then, without a word, she grabbed 2 more sacks and slung them over her shoulder with strength that made his throat go dry. She walked past him. So close he could smell sage and wood smoke on her skin. So close he saw the scar along her jawline thin and white against copper. So close his pulse kicked up in a way that had nothing to do with fear. She stopped at the door, looked back. "You are not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "A bullet." She said it flat, factual. Then she was gone, moving toward the tree line with that long, sure stride. Silas stood there watching until the cottonwoods swallowed her whole, his heart still hammering, his mind spinning with questions he had no answers for. What he didn't see was that 50 paces into the forest, she stopped. Set down those sacks. Turned to look back at the ranch house, at the young man standing frozen by his shed like he'd just seen a ghost. And for the first time in 6 months, 6 months of grief so heavy, it felt like drowning on dry land. Something stirred in her chest that wasn't rage or emptiness. Curiosity. Dangerous thing, curiosity. Got people killed. 2 days crawled by like gut-shot animals. Silas couldn't stop thinking about her. Couldn't stop seeing those black eyes measuring him. Couldn't stop wondering if she'd come back. Couldn't stop hoping she would, even though he knew better. He was fixing fence along the eastern pasture when the skin on the back of his neck started prickling. That feeling of being watched. He didn't turn around. Kept working. Driving posts into hard ground with the mallet. Each strike sending shocks up his arms. Sweat running down his back despite the cold snap moving in from the mountains. And through it all, eyes on him. Heavy as hands. After an hour, he couldn't take it anymore. He turned. She stood at the tree line. 30 yards out. Not hiding. Just watching him work with that intensity that made him feel stripped bare. Their eyes locked. Neither moved. The air between them felt charged. Electric. Like right before lightning strikes. Then she tilted her head, corner of her mouth lifting. Not quite a smile. More like she'd figured out something amusing. And she was gone. Melted back into the trees like smoke. Silas stood there breathing hard, hammer loose in his grip. What the hell was she doing? Why come back just to watch and bow? Next morning she was there again, this time closer, sitting on a fallen log just beyond his property line, arms crossed, watching him repair the corral gate. No pretense, no hiding, bold as daylight. He lasted maybe 10 minutes before he set down his tools and walked toward her, each step feeling heavier than the last, like walking into deep water. She didn't move, just watched him come with those unreadable eyes. He stopped at the property line. Invisible boundary neither had crossed. "You planning to just watch me work every day because I got to tell you it's unsettling?" "You are interesting." She said it simple, like stating weather. "Most white men would have shot me. You gave me food." "Most people don't deserve getting shot for being hungry." "Most white men do not think of Apache as people." The words hung there like smoke, true and ugly and impossible to argue with. "My name's Silas." He didn't know what else to say. She studied him for a long moment, then Nakoha. "That's a good name?" "It means she who walks with the sacred." Something dark crossed her face. "Though I am not sacred anymore. I am exile, ghost, dead woman walking." "You don't look dead to me. I buried my husband 6 months ago, watched him bleed out in my arms from a white man's bullet while I could do nothing." Her voice stayed flat, factual, but her hands clenched. "My tribe says I must marry his brother now. Continue the bloodline. Produce sons, as if I am breeding stock." Silas felt something cold settle in his gut. "That why you're out here alone?" "I told them no. Said I would choose my own path." She stood, and he realized again how tall she was. Eyes almost level with his. "They said I dishonor my husband's memory, dishonor my family, The elders gave me 1 moon to reconsider. That was 3 weeks ago. And if you don't reconsider, I become nothing. No tribe, no family, no name. She said it without self-pity, just fact. But I will not be property, not again. I had enough of that in my marriage. Thought you loved your husband. I respected him. He was a good man, a good hunter. But our marriage was arrangement. Duty. She looked at Silas with those dark, dark eyes. I was 15 when they wed us. Did not know love existed. Only obligation. Silas didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know what to say to any of it. You live alone, she said, not a question. My father died 8 months back. Fever took him in 3 days. So we are both ghosts. She took a step closer. 1 step. But it felt like crossing a canyon. Living in houses of the dead. Suppose so. The silence stretched. Not uncomfortable. Just weighted with things neither knew how to say. Silas could smell sage on her. Mixed with leather and pine and something earthier. Could see calluses on her fingers from bow and knife. Could see the way she held herself coiled spring, ready to explode into motion. Why do you keep coming back? He asked. Because you confuse me. She said it like an accusation. 6 months, I have felt nothing but rage and grief. Then you appear with your soft heart and I feel... She stopped, jaw tightening. I should not be here. But you are. Yes. She looked at him straight on. I am. She came back the next day at noon when shadows were shortest and heat was highest. But this time she didn't stay at the tree line. This time she walked right across his property, past the corral, past the shed, right up to where he sat on the porch steps eating jerky and stale bread. Silas froze, bread halfway to his mouth. Nakoha stopped 3 feet away, close enough he had to tilt his head back to look at her. You are afraid of me. Not a question. Little bit, yeah. Good. Fear is wise. She sat down beside him on the step. Close enough their shoulders almost touched. Almost. But that is not why your hands shake when I am near. Heat crawled up his neck. He set the bread down. Suddenly had no appetite. I don't... You watch me like a starving man watches food. She turned to look at him full on. The directness in her gaze stripped away every defense he might have tried to build. Like a man dying of thirst watches water. His throat closed. I need to tell you something, she said, voice dropping lower. I have not lain with a man since my husband died. 6 months. Do you know what 6 months of want feels like, Silas? The world narrowed to just her, just the heat of her body next to his, just the low rasp of her voice saying things that set fire to every nerve. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. Can't say I do. She went very still, studying his face like she was reading a map. Then understanding dawned in her eyes. You have never been with a woman. It wasn't a question, but shame burned through him anyway. Never had the chance. Living out here alone, no town for 40 miles, no... He stopped. Why was he explaining, it's not something I advertise? Why not? Her hand came up. Fingers tracing the line of his jaw so light it might have been imagined, except his skin burned everywhere she touched. There is no shame in innocence, only in cruelty, in violence, in taking without asking. Then why do I feel like less of a man? Because men have told you that wanting makes you weak, that gentleness is failure. Her thumb brushed across his lower lip and his breath caught. But I have known cruel men, violent men, men who took what they wanted without care. She leaned closer, breath warm against his cheek. You are not those men, and that makes you rare as water in desert. Before he could find words, her whole body went taut, head snapping toward the eastern trees. Silas heard it then, hoofbeats, coming fast. They found me. Nakoha stood in one fluid motion, hand going to the knife at her belt. "My people, I stayed too long in one place." 3 riders burst from the tree line, Apache warriors on painted ponies, weapons out, faces hard as carved stone. They saw Nakoha standing over Silas, saw him sitting at her feet. The lead warrior's face went dark with rage. He shouted something in Apache that sounded like gravel in a tin can. Nakoha shouted back, just as harsh, just as angry. The warrior gestured at her, then at the forest, then at Silas. His meaning was clear even without translation. Nakoha turned to look at Silas, and in her eyes was everything they hadn't said, everything building between them over these few short days. "I must go," she said quietly. "If I do not, they will kill you." "Let them try." "Silas." "I said let them try." He stood, slowly, hands visible, heart hammering so hard he thought it might crack a rib. "You don't want to go. I can see it. What I want does not matter. It matters to me." The lead warrior barked something sharp, took a step forward. Nakoha answered in Apache. The warrior's face twisted with fury, and he lunged. Silas stepped between them, just stepped right in front of Nakoha, unarmed, unarmored. Just one white man against 3 Apache warriors who could kill him 6 ways without breaking a sweat. The warrior stopped, staring at Silas like he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. "She stays," Silas said, voice steadier than he felt. "She stays because she wants to, not because I'm keeping her, not because you're taking her, because she chose." The warrior said something, voice low and dangerous. "He says you are a fool," Nakoha whispered behind him, her hand gripping the back of his shirt. "Says one white man cannot stand against Apache warriors." Maybe not. Silas's hands were shaking, but he kept them at his sides. "But I'll die trying, if that's what it takes, because she deserves to choose her own damn life." Nakoha made a sound, half gasp, half sob. The lead warrior studied Silas for a long moment. Then he spoke, not shouting this time, asking. "He wants to know why you would die for a woman who is not yours." Nakoha translated, her voice unsteady. "Tell him she is mine and I'm hers. Tell him we chose each other." When she translated, something shifted in the warrior's stances. The lad warrior's eyes moved between Silas and Nakoha, seeing something there that made him pause. He spoke at length, his voice hard but no longer threatening immediate violence. "He says," Nakoha's voice caught, "he says if I choose to stay with you, I can never return. I will be dead to my people. My name will not be spoken. My family will mourn me as if I died. And if you go back, I marry Takota's brother, bear his children, live as his wife until I die." The choice hung between them like smoke. Silas wanted to tell her to stay, wanted to beg her not to leave. But this had to be her decision, not his, not her brother's, not her tribe's, hers. Nakoha was silent for what felt like forever. Then she stepped up beside Silas, her hand finding his, gripping tight. She looked at the lead warrior and spoke in Apache, clear and strong. The warrior's expression hardened. He spat something back. She cut him off with more words, sharper now, angrier. They went back and forth, voices rising. Finally, the warrior made a cutting gesture with his hand and turned his horse. But before he disappeared into the trees, he looked back, not at Nakoha, at Silas. And in that look was something that might have been respect. Cher. They stood in the yard long after hoofbeats faded, hands still clasped, neither speaking. The weight of what just happened pressed down like a physical thing. Nakoha had chosen exile, had chosen him over everything she'd ever known. "You did not have to do that," she said finally, voice rough. "Stand in front of me like that. You could have died." "I know." "Then why?" Silas turned to face her, In the afternoon light, he could see tear tracks down her cheeks. First time he'd seen her cry. Because 8 months ago I buried my father and thought I'd spend the rest of my life alone. Thought that was just what life was. Empty and quiet and safe. He reached up and brushed away a tear with his thumb. Then you showed up and made me feel things I didn't know I could feel. Made me want things I didn't know how to want. Made me realize that safety isn't living. It's just existing. Nakoha closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. I have given up everything for this. For you. I know. If this is mistake, it's not. You cannot know that. Maybe not. He pulled her closer. But I'd rather risk everything with you than spend another day safe and alone. She opened her eyes. The vulnerability he saw there, this strong, fierce woman who'd faced down warriors and refused to bend, looking at him like he was the only solid thing in a world gone liquid beneath her feet. Take me inside, she whispered. His heart kicked hard. Nakoha. I need to feel something real, something good. Her hands fisted in his shirt. I need you. They barely made it through the door. She kissed him in the hallway. Hands in his hair, body pressed against his with urgency that left no room for hesitation. He responded on instinct, backing her toward the stairs, stumbling over his own feet. Slow down, she murmured against his mouth, even as her hands pulled at his shirt. We have time now. All the time we need. They made it to his bedroom, and the urgency shifted into something else. Something tender. Nakoha's hands slowed as she unbuttoned his shirt, fingers tracing the planes of his chest with gentleness that made him shiver. He touched her in return, fumbling with the ties of her leather clothing, clumsy but careful. I don't know what I'm doing, he admitted, voice shaking. Neither do I. She caught his face in her hands, forced him to meet her eyes. My husband and I, we were young when we married. It was duty more than desire, quick and practical like everything else. I do not know how to do this slowly, how to make it mean something. Then we'll figure it out together. What followed was awkward and fumbling and perfect in its imperfection. She guided him with patient hands, showing him where to touch, how to move. He learned her body in lamplight, every scar and curve and sensitive place. She gasped when he kissed the hollow of her throat, arched into him when his hands found her hips. When they finally came together, she made a sound that was half sob, half moan. And he understood this wasn't just bodies joining. This was two people who'd been alone too long, finding home in each other. After they lay tangled together, skin damp, breathing hard, her head on his chest, his hand moving slow up and down her spine. Neither spoke for a long time. 6 months, she said finally, voice quiet. 6 months. I thought I would never feel this again. Thought I would carry grief and anger until they killed me. Silas pressed a kiss to her hair. I was afraid. I know. I felt you shaking. She lifted her head to look at him. In her eyes was something warm and soft he'd never seen before. But you did it anyway. That is bravery, not absence of fear. Acting despite it. My father used to say that. He was wise man. She settled back against his chest, fingers tracing patterns on his skin. What happens now? She asked. I cannot go back. My people will not come for me again. But I am alone in this world except for you. Then we build something new together. He tightened his arms around her. Stay here. Help me run this ranch. We'll make it work. You make it sound simple. Maybe it is. Maybe we've both been making it harder than it needs to be by trying to do everything alone. He felt her smile against his chest. Besides, I need someone who actually knows how to fix fence properly. Her laugh was soft and genuine. First time he'd heard her truly laugh. The sound filled something inside him he hadn't known was empty. We should sleep, she murmured. Tomorrow will bring its own troubles. Tomorrow, he agreed. But neither of them closed their eyes. Not yet. Not when this warmth, this connection, this feeling of not being alone was still too new and precious to waste on sleep. Outside, wind moved through cottonwoods. Inside, two people who had been ghosts found their way back to living. Dawn came cold and sharp as a blade. Silas woke with Nakoha's weight against his side, her breath warm on his chest, and for 5 perfect seconds, everything was right with the world. Then reality crashed back in like a fist to the gut. She was exiled. He'd put a target on both their backs. And winter was coming fast, with nothing but his amateur ranching skills and her hunting knowledge between them and starvation. "You are thinking too loud," Nakoha murmured without opening her eyes. "I can hear your worry from here. Just wondering what happens when your people realize you're not coming back. They already know." She sat up, sheet falling away. No modesty in the gesture, just practical. "When Kuruk returns without me, they will perform death rites, burn my belongings, speak my name one final time, then never again. By tonight, Nakoha will be dead woman." The casual way she said it made his chest tight. "And how do you feel about that?" She was quiet for a moment. Then free, terrified, both. She looked at him. "Is that strange?" "No." He reached for her hand. "It's honest." She squeezed his fingers. "We should move. Daylight is wasting and your horses need feeding." Right. The ranch. Work. Life continuing like the world hadn't just shifted under their feet. They dressed in silence that wasn't uncomfortable, just weighted with new awareness. Every movement felt significant. Her fingers tying leather laces. Him pulling on boots. The intimacy of morning routine shared for the first time. Outside, frost covered everything in silver. Their breath made clouds in the air. Nakoha stopped in the yard, head tilting. Listening. "What?" Silas asked. "Your fence. Eastern pasture. Something is wrong." "How can you possibly?" "Listen." He did. Heard nothing but wind and weight. Cattle. Lowing in distress. They ran. The eastern fence was torn to hell. Not weather damage. Not age. Someone had cut the wire clean through in 3 places. His 6 head of cattle were scattered, 2 already missing into the scrub beyond. "Bandits!" Silas's hand went to the rifle he'd grabbed on the way out. "No." Nakoha crouched by the fence line, touched the ground. "Horses, unshod. 3 riders. They came in the night." "Your people." "No. These tracks are Ute." She stood face grim. "They are testing you, seeing if you will fight for what is yours or if you are easy prey." "Why would they?" Then it hit him. "Because they saw me with you. Think I'm weak. They think you are white fool playing at rancher." She met his eyes. "They are not entirely wrong." The words stung because they were true. "So what do I do?" "We," she corrected. "What do we do?" And the answer is, we track them. Get your cattle back. Show them you are not prey. That's insane. It's 3 against 2, and they probably have... Silas. She gripped his shoulders. "If you do not do this, they will come back. Take more. Then your horses. Then your supplies. Then they will kill you and burn this place to ash. Is that what you want?" "No." "Then saddle the horses. We ride now while trail is fresh." His stomach churned with fear, but he moved anyway. Because she was right. And because the alternative was waiting here, like a rabbit, hoping the wolves would pass him by. They rode hard, following tracks that Nakoha read like words on a page. Every broken twig, every hoofprint in soft earth, every disturbance in the natural order told her something. 2 hours in, she raised a hand. They stopped. "They are close, maybe 1 mile ahead." She slid off her horse. "We leave horses here. Go on foot." "What's the plan?" "You stay here. I go get cattle." "Like hell I'm staying." Silas. Her voice went hard. You cannot move quiet. You cannot track. You cannot fight 3 warriors. You will get us both killed. Then teach me to move quiet. She stared at him. There is no time. Then we do it together or not at all. He dismounted. I'm not hiding while you risk your neck for my cattle. Something shifted in her expression, frustration giving way to something that might have been respect. Fine, but you do exactly as I say. Exactly. Understand? Yes, ma'am. She showed him how to walk, heel to toe, testing each step before committing weight, how to move with the land instead of against it, how to breathe shallow and slow. It took 30 agonizing minutes to cover half a mile. Then Nakoha dropped to a crouch, pointed. Through the scrub oak, Silas saw them. 3 Ute warriors with his 2 cattle tied to a line. They'd made camp, were cooking something over a small fire, laughing, completely at ease. They do not expect pursuit, Nakoha whispered. Good. What now? I circle left. You wait here. When I signal, you make noise. Draw their attention. I cut cattle loose and we run. That's the plan. Make noise and run. You have better idea. He didn't. What's the signal? You will know. She melted into the brush like smoke. Silas waited, heart hammering, hands sweating despite the cold. Minutes crawled by like hours. Then he heard it. A bird call. Too perfect, too deliberate. He stood up and fired the rifle into the air. The warriors exploded into motion, grabbing weapons, scanning for threat. Silas fired again, shouted, "Over here, you sons of—" An arrow punched into the tree beside his head. Time to run. He crashed through brush like a wounded buffalo, heard shouting behind him. Another arrow hissed past, then hoofbeats, the cattle running free. And Nakoha mounted on one of the Ute horses leading his cattle and his own horse, her face fierce and alive. "Move!" she shouted. He ran, grabbed saddlehorn, hauled himself up as his horse bolted. Behind them the Ute warriors were mounting up, giving chase. "Can we outrun them?" Silas gasped. "No, but we do not need to." She pointed ahead. The canyon, narrow passage. They cannot follow 3 abreast. They hit the canyon at full gallop, cattle streaming ahead, walls closing in on both sides. Behind them, war cries echoed off stone. The passage narrowed further and further, until it opened onto Silas's eastern pasture. They were home. Nakoha wheeled her horse, notched an arrow. The Ute warriors appeared at the canyon mouth and stopped, staring at Nakoha with her bow drawn, at Silas with his rifle raised. The lead warrior said something in Ute. "He says we are thieves," Nakoha translated. "Tell him they cut my fence, stole my cattle. We're just taking back what's mine." She spoke in Ute. The warrior responded. They went back and forth. Finally he spat on the ground and wheeled his horse. His men followed. Silas lowered the rifle. His hands were shaking so bad he nearly dropped it. "Did we just win?" "We survived." Nakoha dismounted. "That is winning enough for first day." Then she was laughing, actually laughing, head thrown back, hands on her knees, laughing like she couldn't stop. And Silas found himself laughing too. Adrenaline and fear and relief all pouring out in great gasping waves. "That was the stupidest thing I've ever done," he managed. "Yes." She wiped her eyes. "And it worked. You fought for what is yours. They will remember." "Will they come back?" "Maybe, but not today." She sobered. "Today we repair fence. Tomorrow who knows." They worked until sunset. Nakoha showing him how to properly splice wire, how to set posts that would hold through winter freeze and spring thaw. Her hands moving with practiced efficiency, while his fumbled and learned. "Where did you learn this?" he asked. "My husband. He learned from white trappers. Thought we should understand your ways if we were to survive alongside them." Her voice went distant. He was right, though it did not save him. "What happened to him?" "You said he was shot." She was quiet for a long moment, working the wire. Then, settlers came to our winter camp. Said we were on their land. We had been there for 3 generations, but they had paper. Words on paper that meant more than our history. Her hands stilled. Dakota tried to negotiate, used his English, his understanding of white ways. They shot him for speaking. Said talking Indian was still just an animal making noise. The casual cruelty of it hit Silas like a physical blow. "I'm sorry." "Are you?" She looked at him. "You are white. You have paper for this land. How is it different?" "My father bought this from..." He stopped. "I don't know who he bought it from. I was a kid. I just know he had the deed." "And before the deed, whose land was it?" He didn't have an answer for that. "I am not blaming you," she said after a moment. "You did not shoot my husband, did not take our land, but you benefit from those who did. That is truth we must live with. What can I do? I can't change the past." "No, but you can choose differently going forward." She went back to working the wire. "You can see me as person, not savage. You can learn that your ways are not the only ways. You can share this land instead of owning it." "I can do that. We will see." But there was no malice in her voice, just weary realism. They finished the fence as stars came out, walked back to the house in comfortable silence. Inside, Nakoha moved through the kitchen like she belonged there, building up the fire, setting water to boil, finding the cornmeal and salt pork. "You do not have vegetables," she observed. "Never could get anything to grow." "That is because you plant wrong." She started mixing cornmeal with water. Too deep, wrong time, wrong companions. Wrong companions. Plants that help each other grow. Corn, beans, squash, the 3 sisters. She shaped the mixture into cakes. "I will show you in spring, if you want." If you want, like she still wasn't sure she'd be here in spring, like this was temporary. "I want," he said firmly. She glanced at him, something soft in her expression. "Good." They ate in front of the fire, sitting close, shoulders touching. When she leaned her head against him, he wrapped an arm around her waist. It felt natural. Right. "Tell me about your father," she said. So he did. Told her about the man who'd carved a ranch from nothing, who'd taught Silas to ride and shoot and work with his hands, who'd never shown much affection but had loved in his own quiet way, who'd died too young and left Silas alone with no idea what he was doing. "He sounds like good man," Nakoha said when he finished. "He was. Just wish I'd told him more often." "The dead know." She said it with certainty. "They watch from the other side. They know." "You believe that?" "I have to." Her voice went thick. "Because there are things I never got to say to Dakota. Apologies I never made. And if the dead do not know, then I carry that weight forever." Silas pulled her closer. "What would you say to him if you could?" She was quiet for so long, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "I would say I am sorry I did not love him the way he deserved. That he was good husband, and I was dutiful wife. But I never gave him my heart, because I did not know I had one to give." Her voice cracked. "And I would say I am sorry I am moving on so quickly. 6 months feels like betrayal, but I cannot live in grief forever. I tried. It was killing me." "He'd understand," Silas said. "If he loved you, he'd want you to live." "You did not know him." "No, but I know what love is supposed to be. And it's not keeping someone trapped in pain." She turned to look at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. "How do you know what love is? You said you never been with a woman. Doesn't mean I don't know love." He touched her face. "My father loved me. I know because he stayed. Because he worked himself into an early grave trying to give me something better. Because his last words were, 'Take care of the ranch.' Not, 'I love you.' Just take care of the ranch, because that's how he showed love, through action. A tear slipped down her cheek. He caught it with his thumb. "I am falling for you," she whispered. "Too fast, too hard. It terrifies me." "Good," he smiled. "Because I'm already gone." She kissed him then, soft and slow and sweet. No urgency, just connection. When she pulled back, she pressed her forehead to his. "What are we doing, Silas?" "Building something new. It will not be easy." "I know. People will come. White settlers who do not approve. Tribes who see me as traitor. Winters that try to kill us. Springs that flood. Summers that burn." "I know. And you still want this? More than I've ever wanted anything." She searched his face, looking for doubt maybe, or fear, but all she found was certainty. "Then we are both fools." "Probably," he grinned. "But at least we're fools together." She laughed, shook her head. "You are strange man, Silas Brennan. You're one to talk." They sat by the fire until it burned to embers, then moved to the bedroom where they learned each other again. Slower this time, with less desperation and more tenderness. Every touch a promise, every kiss a vow. After lying tangled together in the darkness, Nakoha spoke into the silence. "There is something you should know." "What?" "The Ute today. They will tell others. That white rancher rides with Apache woman. That we fought them together. Word will spread." "Is that bad?" "It is complicated. Some will respect it. See alliance. Others will see weakness. See betrayal. See target." She traced patterns on his chest. "We have made ourselves visible, and visibility is dangerous for people like us." People like us. People who do not fit into the boxes your world or mine have built. He thought about that, about the truth in it, about how his father's neighbors would react if they knew, about what the men at the trading post would say, about how Nakoha's people had already exiled her for choosing her own path. "Let them talk," he said finally. "Let them think what they want. We know what this is." "And what is it?" "Ours." He said it simply. "This ranch, this life, this choice, it's ours and nobody else gets a say." She was quiet. Then, "You make it sound simple." "Maybe it is." "No." She lifted her head. "It is not, but I appreciate you trying to believe it." Outside, wind picked up, rattling shutters, carrying the scent of coming snow. "Storm coming," Nakoha said. "Big one. We need to bring horses into the barn tomorrow. Check supplies, seal any cracks in the walls." Back to practical, back to survival. But there was comfort in that, in the knowledge that they'd face it together. "Tomorrow," Silas agreed. "Tonight we sleep." But as he drifted off with her warmth against him, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real storm hadn't even started yet. The storm hit 3 days later with a violence that made Silas understand why his father had built the house with walls 2 feet thick. Snow came sideways, driven by wind that howled like something alive and hungry. They'd brought the horses into the barn, sealed every crack they could find, stocked the house with enough wood to last a week. But preparation only went so far when nature decided to remind you how small you were. "How long will this last?" Silas had to shout over the wind, even though they were inside. 2 days, maybe 3. Nakoha was checking their food supplies, taking inventory with practiced efficiency. "We have enough cornmeal for a week if we are careful. Salt pork for 5 days. After that we hunt or we starve." "Can't hunt in this." "No, so we pray it passes quickly." She looked at him. "And we stay warm." The way she said it made heat crawl up his neck despite the cold. They spent the first day doing maintenance, checking for leaks, reinforcing shutters, keeping the fire fed. Normal tasks made intimate by proximity and the knowledge that they were completely alone in a world gone white. The second day, the wind got worse. Something crashed against the side of the house hard enough to shake the walls. Then again. And again. "What is that?" Silas grabbed the rifle. Nakoha was already at the window, peering through gaps in the shutters. "Debris. Tree branches. The wind is tearing everything apart." Another crash. Louder this time. Something splintered. "The barn," Nakoha said. "Roof is coming off." "The horses. We'll die if we go out there." She grabbed his arm as he moved toward the door. "That wind will knock you flat. Freeze you solid before you make 10 steps. I can't just let them." "You can and you will." Her grip tightened. "Because if you die trying to save horses, then I am alone again. And I did not give up everything to watch another man I care about throw his life away for nothing." The raw emotion in her voice stopped him cold. "They're not nothing. They are animals. You are not." She pulled him away from the door. "We wait. Storm will pass. If horses live good. If not, we get new horses. But you do not die today. I will not allow it." He wanted to argue, wanted to say she couldn't stop him. But the fear in her eyes was real and sharp, and he remembered she'd already watched one man die in her arms. He wouldn't make her go through that again. "Fine. We wait." The relief on her face made his chest ache. They sat by the fire, listening to the storm tear at the world outside. Every crash made Silas flinch. Every groan of stressed wood made him want to check the barn. But Nakoha's hand in his kept him anchored. "Tell me about your mother," she said suddenly. "Why?" "Because I need to think about something other than this storm, and you never speak of her." He was quiet for a moment. "She died when I was 7, fever, same one that took my father years later." "You watched her die too?" It wasn't a question. She understood. "Yeah." "That is why you wanted to save the horses. Because you could not save her or your father." Her thumb traced circles on his palm. "But Silas, you cannot save everything. Sometimes survival means letting go. I'm not good at letting go." "I know. Neither am I." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "But we will learn together." The third day, the wind finally died. They woke to silence so complete it felt like being underwater. Silas pulled on his coat and boots, Nakoha right behind him. Outside, the world had been remade in white. Drifts taller than a man blocked the door. The barn roof was half gone, just like Nakoha predicted. They dug their way to the barn, found both horses alive but spooked, huddled together in the corner where the roof still held. Silas nearly collapsed with relief. "We were lucky," Nakoha said, running her hands over the mare to calm her. "Storm could have been much worse." "This is lucky. We are alive. Horses are alive. House is standing. Yes, this is lucky." They spent the day clearing snow and repairing what they could. The roof would need more work come spring, but for now, they made it weatherproof enough. As they worked, Silas noticed Nakoha kept glancing toward the tree line. "What are you looking for?" "Nothing. Everything." She drove another nail. "Storm, this big, animals will be desperate, hunting close to human settlement. We need to be careful." "What kind of animals?" "Mountain lion, wolf, bear, if any are still awake." She paused. "And people. Storm like this, supplies run low. Desperate men do desperate things." As if summoned by her words, they heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Voices, coming from the direction of the road. Silas and Nakoha exchanged a look. He grabbed the rifle. She grabbed her bow. They moved to the front of the house. 3 men on horses emerged from the white. White men bundled against the cold, leading a pack mule. They saw Silas and raised hands in greeting. "Hello, the house," the lead man called out. He was older, maybe 50, with a gray beard frosted with ice. "We're traveling to the trading post. Saw your smoke. Wondering if we might impose for some hot coffee and a warm-up before we push on." It was reasonable, normal. The kind of request you didn't refuse on the frontier, where hospitality might be the difference between life and death. But Silas felt Nakoha tense beside him, saw her hand shift on the bow. "Something wrong?" he asked quietly. "The one on the left, his coat. I have seen it before." Silas looked, saw a worn leather coat, nothing special. "Where?" "On the man who shot my husband." The world tilted. "You sure?" "I spent 6 months dreaming of that coat." Her voice was flat, dead. "I am sure." The gray-bearded man was closer now, smiling, friendly. "Mighty grateful for the hospitality, friend. Been riding 3 days straight through that devil of a storm." Silas's mind raced. If he refused them, they'd know something was wrong. If he let them in, he'd be inviting his woman's husband's killer into his home. And if Nakoha was wrong, but she wasn't wrong. He could see it in every line of her body. She knew that coat the way he knew his own hands. "Light down," Silas heard himself say. "Coffee's on." Nakoha's head snapped toward him. He didn't look at her, just kept his eyes on the 3 men as they dismounted. "Much obliged," Graybeard said. "Name's Tucker. This here's my brother James and our friend, Cal," Nakoha said. Her voice could have cut glass. The man in the leather coat looked at her for the first time. Really looked. And Silas saw recognition dawn on his face. Saw him reach for his weapon. Silas had the rifle up faster. "Don't." Cal froze. Tucker and James put their hands up slow. "Now hold on," Tucker said. "We don't want trouble. You brought trouble with you." Nakoha moved forward, bow-drawn arrow aimed at Cal's chest. You shot my husband 6 months ago. You shot him for speaking to you." Cal's face went pale. "I don't know what you're—" "You were with 5 other men. You came to our winter camp, said we were on your land. My husband tried to talk. You shot him." Her voice never rose above conversational, which somehow made it more terrifying. "His name was Takoda. Do you remember, or do you kill so many you cannot keep track?" "It was self-defense," Cal said, voice shaking. "He reached for a weapon." "He reached for nothing. He had his hands up. You shot him because you could, because you wanted to, because to you we are not people." "Nakoha?" Silas said quietly. Not sure what he was trying to say. Not sure what he should say. "I should kill you now," she continued. "Put an arrow through your heart. Watch you bleed. Make you feel what he felt." "Please," Cal whispered. "But I will not." She lowered the bow slightly. "Because I am not you. I do not kill men who are unarmed and begging, even when they deserve it." Relief flooded Cal's face. "Instead, you will leave. Now, without coffee, without warming. You will ride into the cold, and you will remember this moment. Remember that I showed you mercy. Your kind never showed my people." She raised the bow again. "And if I ever see you again, I will not be so kind. Understand?" "Yes. Yes, I understand." "Then go." The 3 men backed toward their horses. Tucker helped Cal mount with shaking hands. They rode off without looking back. Silas and Nakoha stood in the snow, watching until they disappeared. Then Nakoha's knees buckled. He caught her before she fell. She was shaking, great violent tremors running through her entire body. "I had him," she gasped. "I could have killed him. I wanted to kill him. 6 months I have dreamed of nothing else, and I had him, and I—" A sob tore from her throat. "I let him go. Because you're better than him. I do not feel better. I feel like coward." She was crying now, real tears, not the silent ones from before, but great gasping sobs that shook her whole frame. "I should have killed him. For Dakota, for justice, for what revenge? Silas held her tighter. That wouldn't bring your husband back, wouldn't change what happened, would just make you a killer. I am already killer. I have killed men in battle, in defense. What is one more? The difference between warrior and murderer. You know that. She did know. He could see it in the way her body slowly stopped shaking, in the way her breath started to even out. She knew. But knowing didn't make the wanting go away. I hate him, she whispered. I hate him so much it burns. I know. And I hate myself for letting him live. I know that too. He pressed his lips to her hair. But I'm proud of you anyway. She pulled back to look at him, face wet with tears. Why? Because you chose mercy when revenge would have been easier. Because you're trying to be something more than your pain. Because... He stopped, swallowed. Because I love you. And I don't want to watch you destroy yourself for a man who isn't worth it. The words hung between them. First time either had said it. Nakoha stared at him. You love me. Yeah. We have known each other less than 2 weeks. I know. That is not enough time to love someone. Doesn't change what I feel. She searched his face, looking for doubt maybe, or lies. But all she found was truth. I love you too, she said finally. And it terrifies me. Good. He smiled despite everything. We can be terrified together. She laughed, watery and broken, but real, then kissed him hard enough to bruise, kissed him like she was trying to erase the last hour, or maybe burn it into memory. He couldn't tell which. When they finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. What if he comes back with more men? Then we deal with it. They will kill you, Silas. White men do not take kindly to being threatened by Apache woman. They will see it as insult that must be answered with blood. Let them try. He meant it. I stood between you and your people. I'll stand between you and mine too. You cannot fight the whole world. Maybe not. He took her hand. But I can fight for our corner of it. They went inside, warmed themselves by the fire. Neither spoke for a long time, just sat together processing what had happened, what it meant. Finally, Nakoha broke the silence. I need to tell you something. What? When I let him go, it was not just mercy. She stared into the flames. It was calculation. If I killed him, his friends would hunt us, would bring others, would not stop until we were both dead. But if I let him live, if I show mercy... She paused. Some men will see weakness, but some will see strength. Will see that I am not animal, that I have honor. That's smart. It is survival. She looked at him. But it is also risk. Because now he knows where we are, knows we are here. And if he is the kind of man I think he is, mercy will mean nothing. He will come back, and he will bring others. The weight of that settled over them like a physical thing. How long do we have? Silas asked. Depends on the man. If he is coward, maybe never. If he is proud... She shrugged. Could be days, could be weeks, could be tomorrow. Then we prepare. How? You teach me to fight, really fight. Not just stand there with a rifle hoping I get lucky. He gripped her hand. You teach me to track, to read signs, to understand the land the way you do. Because you're right, I can't fight the whole world. But maybe I can learn to survive it. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. We start tomorrow. Why not now? Because now I need you to hold me. I need to feel something other than rage and fear. I need... Her voice broke. I need to remember why I chose this, why I chose you, why I walked away from everything I knew. So he held her while she cried for the husband she'd lost, and the man she'd let live, and the life she'd given up, and the uncertain future stretching before them. Held her until the tears stopped and exhaustion took over. That night they lay tangled together, neither sleeping well. Every sound outside made them tense. Every creak of the house made them reach for weapons. But morning came anyway, cold and clear and unforgiving. Nakoha was up before dawn. When Silas found her, she was in the yard, moving through forms with her knife. Fluid, deadly, beautiful in a way that made his breath catch. She stopped when she saw him. Ready to learn, as I'll ever be. She smiled, sharp and fierce. Good, because I will not be easy on you. If you are to survive what is coming, you need to be hard. You need to be fast. You need to be willing to do things that will haunt you. She walked toward him. Can you do that? For you? He met her eyes. Yeah, I can. Then we begin. What followed was 3 days of the hardest work Silas had ever done. She taught him to move quiet, to read tracks, to understand animal behavior and human patterns. Taught him knife work, not fancy, just brutal efficiency. Where to cut to disable, where to stab to kill, how to turn a farm tool into a weapon. She was relentless. When he stumbled, she made him do it again. When he complained, she pushed harder. When he wanted to quit, she reminded him why he couldn't. Out there, nobody will give you rest, she said after he collapsed for the 3rd time that day. Nobody will wait for you to catch your breath. You fight or you die. That is all. I'm trying. Try harder. By the 4th day, he was moving better. Not good. Not yet. But better. That evening, as they sat cleaning weapons by firelight, she spoke. You are learning fast. Faster than I expected. Got a good teacher. You have motivation. That is more important than teacher. She sighted down an arrow, checking the straightness. But Silas, there is something you must understand. All this training, it might not be enough. If they come with numbers, with guns, with determination, we might still die. I know. And you are still willing. Are you? She smiled. Yes. Because even if we die tomorrow, these weeks with you have been worth it. I have felt more alive with you than I did in years of going through motions with my husband. I have laughed, cried, loved, been my own person instead of someone's property. She reached across the space between them. So yes, I am willing to die for this. Are you? Yeah, he said. I am. Because it was true. Whatever life he'd had before, empty and safe and small, he wouldn't go back to it for anything, even if the price was blood. They came on the 7th day. Silas was chopping wood behind the house when Nakoha's hand clamped over his mouth from behind. She pressed close lips against his ear. 8 riders, coming from the east, armed. Her voice was barely a whisper. Cal brought friends. His stomach dropped. How long? 10 minutes, maybe less. She released him. We can run, take the horses, head into the mountains. And leave everything. Everything is just things. We are alive. That matters more. But even as she said it, Silas saw the truth in her eyes. She didn't want to run either. Running meant starting over with nothing. Meant proving Cal right, that they were prey to be chased off whenever he pleased. What if we don't run? Then we fight 8 armed men with 1 rifle and a bow. She said it flat. Those are bad odds, Silas. You said I was learning. Learning is not the same as ready. She gripped his arm. These are not Ute raiders testing boundaries. These are white men with grudges and pride and nothing to lose. They will not hesitate. They will not show mercy. Then neither do we. She searched his face. You understand what that means. If we do this, we cross a line. We become killers. You cannot come back from that. I know. Do you? Because I have killed men, Silas. I know what it does to you, how it follows you into sleep, how their faces become part of your dreams. Her voice went rough. I do not want that for you. Too bad. He took her hand. Because I'm not running. This is our home, our land, our life, and I'll be damned if I let them take it. Something fierce and proud flashed in her eyes. Then we make them regret coming. They had 9 minutes. Nakoha moved with military precision. You take the rifle, position in the house second-floor window, best sight lines. I will be in the barn with the bow. When they arrive, I will take first shot. That is signal. You shoot anyone who moves toward the house. What if they split up? They will. That is why you stay in the house. Defendable position. Limited entry points. She was gathering arrows, checking each one. If they breach you, go to the cellar. There is a tunnel my people dug, leads to the creek bed. Emergency escape. You never told me about a tunnel. Did not think we would need it. She looked at him. Silas, if this goes wrong, if they get me, you run. You do not try to save me. You run, and you keep running. Promise me. Like hell, Promise me. Her voice cracked. I cannot do this if I am worrying about you doing something stupid and heroic. I need to know you will survive, even if I do not. He wanted to argue, wanted to say they'd both survive or both die. But the fear in her eyes was real and raw, and he understood she'd already lost one man. She couldn't bear to lose another. I promise, he lied. She knew he was lying. He could see it in her face, but she also knew there was no time to argue. 5 minutes, she said. Go. Now. He grabbed the rifle and ammunition, ran to the house, took the stairs 2 at a time. Second-floor window gave him clear view of the approach. He loaded the rifle with shaking hands. Through the window, he could see Nakoha slipping into the barn, silent as smoke. Then she was gone, hidden in the shadows. The minutes crawled. Then he heard them. Hoofbeats, voices, getting closer. 8 riders emerged from the tree line exactly like Nakoha said. Cal was in the middle, pointing toward the house, talking. The others were listening, nodding, checking weapons. Silas's heart hammered against his ribs. His palms were slick with sweat. Every instinct screamed to hide, to run, to do anything but wait here with a rifle pointed at 8 men who wanted him dead. But he waited. The riders stopped 50 yards out. Cal dismounted, started walking toward the house alone. Hands visible, no weapon drawn. Silas Brennan, he called out. I know you can hear me. I've come to talk. Silas said nothing, just watched through the window. I don't want trouble, Cal continued. But what happened the other day that can't stand? Your woman threatened me on my own land. That's not something a man can let go. This isn't your land, Silas called back. And she had every right after what you did to her husband. That was self-defense and you know it. Cal took a step closer. But I'm willing to forget about it. You send that Apache woman out here, let us have words with her, and we'll call it even. Not happening. Then we got a problem. Cal's voice hardened. Because I brought 7 men with me who feel strongly about Indians threatening white folk. They want satisfaction. And if you don't give it peaceful, we'll take it bloody. Try it. Don't be stupid, boy. You're 1 rifle against 8. Math doesn't work in your favor. Maybe not. Silas's finger found the trigger. But I'll get at least 2 of you before I go down. Question is, do you want to be one of them? Cal stopped, stared up at the window, trying to see Silas through the glare. Last chance. Send her out or we come in. That's when Nakoha's arrow took the man on Cal's left through the shoulder. The man screamed, fell. Chaos erupted. The riders scattered, going for weapons. Silas fired, missed, fired again. This time the bullet caught one of the horses, sending it bucking and throwing its rider. Another arrow from the barn. This one hit a rider in the leg. He went down cursing. Cal was running back toward his horse, shouting orders. 3 men charged the barn. 2 came toward the house. Silas fired at the nearest. The bullet took him in the chest. He dropped like a stone. The second man made it to the porch. Silas heard the door crash open downstairs. Boots on hardwood. Coming fast. He abandoned the window, grabbed the rifle, positioned himself at the top of the stairs. The man appeared below, saw Silas, raised his pistol. Silas fired first. The man collapsed backward, blood spreading across his shirt, eyes going glassy. Silas's stomach turned. He'd just killed a man. Actually killed him. No accident. No self-defense debate. Just pointed and pulled and ended a life. No time to process. Gunfire from outside. Nakoha was still fighting. He ran to the window. Saw the three men had the barn surrounded. One was trying to light a torch. They were going to burn her out. No. The word tore from his throat. He fired. The man with the torch dropped it, clutched his arm, but another man picked it up, threw it onto the barn roof. Flames caught, spread fast, too fast. Nakoha burst from the barn doors, bow-drawn arrow already flying. It took one man in the throat. He fell gurgling, but the other two had her flanked. She couldn't get them both. Silas didn't think, just ran. Down the stairs, out the door, across the yard screaming like a madman. One of the men turned, raised his gun. Silas saw the muzzle flash, felt something punch his shoulder, spin him sideways. But he didn't go down, couldn't go down. Nakoha needed him. He raised the rifle one-handed, fired. The man's head snapped back. Nakoha's arrow took the last one before he could react. Then it was quiet. Just the crackle of fire and the moaning of wounded men and Silas's ragged breathing. Cal was gone. Must have run when it went bad. 3 men were dead. 3 more wounded. 1 horse down. Nakoha was at his side instantly. "You are shot." "Yeah." Now that she mentioned it, his shoulder burned like fire. "How bad?" She tore his shirt, examined the wound. "Through and through, missed bone. You are lucky." "Don't feel lucky." "You are alive. That is lucky." She was already tearing cloth for bandage. "Also, you are idiot. I told you to stay in house." "You were going to burn." "I would have made it out." "Maybe, but I wasn't taking chances." He looked at the barn. Flames had the whole roof now. "Can we save it?" "No, it is gone." She finished wrapping his shoulder, tight enough to hurt. "But we are not. That matters more." They stood there watching the barn burn. The horses had made it out before the flames got too high. The wounded men were crawling toward their horses trying to get away. "Let them go," Nakoha said when Silas reached for the rifle. "They will tell others what happened here. Word will spread. Maybe next time people will think twice. Or they'll come back with more men." "Maybe. But not today." She took his hand. "Today we won." But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like survival, bloody and desperate and temporary. They spent the rest of the day dealing with the aftermath. The 3 dead men had to be buried. Leaving bodies would bring scavengers and questions. Silas's shoulder throbbed with every shovel of dirt, but he worked through it. By sunset they were done. Exhausted, bloody, changed. Inside the house, Nakoha cleaned Silas's wound properly, stitched it with thread made from animal sinew. Her hands were steady, but he could see the tremor she was trying to hide. "You killed 3 men today," she said quietly. "I know. How do you feel?" "Sick, scared, guilty." He met her eyes. "Glad we're alive." "That is normal. The sick feeling will fade. The guilt will not." She tied off the last stitch. "But you will learn to carry it. We both will." "Does it get easier?" "No. But you get stronger." She pressed her hand to his chest, over his heart. "The fact that it hurts that you feel guilty, that means you are still human. Hold on to that, because it is easy to lose." That night they lay in bed, neither sleeping, just holding each other, processing what had happened, what it meant. "Cal will come back," Nakoha said into the darkness. "With more men, more guns, more anger. I know. We cannot stay here forever. Eventually numbers will overwhelm us. So what do we do?" She was quiet for a long time. Then, "We leave." What? Not running, choosing. She rolled to face him. "This ranch, it is yours, your father's legacy, but it is also Target. Everyone knows you are here, knows we are together, knows where to find us." She touched his face. "But if we go somewhere new, somewhere no one knows us, we could build something different, something ours." "Where would we go?" "West, past the mountains, into territory so wild even white settlers have not claimed it yet." Her voice gained conviction. "We take the horses, supplies, everything we can carry. We find a valley nobody wants. We build a cabin. We survive on our own terms." "That's insane." "Yes, it is also only way we survive." She gripped his hand. "Here you are, white rancher with Apache woman. There will always be men like Cal who see that as insult. Always be conflict. Always be blood." She pressed his palm to her stomach. "I do not want to raise children in war zone." The word hit him like lightning. "Children. You think I have not noticed my moon blood is late?" She said it matter of fact. "I think I am pregnant, Silas. Not certain, but likely." His mind went blank, then flooded. "How long have you known?" "Since the storm. Did not want to say anything until I was sure. But after today..." Her voice caught. "After today, I realized I cannot keep secrets. If I am carrying your child, you deserve to know. And we deserve to give that child chance at life, not defined by violence." Silas sat up, hands shaking. "A baby. We're having a baby." "Maybe. Probably." She sat up beside him. "Are you angry I did not tell you sooner?" "No, I'm..." What was he? Terrified, thrilled, overwhelmed? "I'm everything." "That is fair." She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. "I know this is fast. We have barely known each other a month. But Silas, I want this child. Want this life. Want you." Her eyes met his. "But not here. Not in place where we have to kill just to survive breakfast. I want peace. Want quiet. Want to raise our baby knowing what safety feels like." "When would we leave?" "Soon. Before winter makes travel impossible. Before Cal comes back with army." She leaned into him. "We take what matters. Leave what does not. Start fresh." He thought about it. Really thought. About the ranch his father built. About the memories in these walls. About everything he'd known. Then he thought about Nakoha. About the baby growing inside her. About a future that wasn't defined by blood and loss. "Okay," he said. "We go." Relief flooded her face. "You are sure?" "No, but I'm willing." He pulled her close. "My father built this place from nothing. I can do the same somewhere else. And this time, I won't be alone." She kissed him, deep and fierce and full of promise. They spent the next 2 days preparing, packing what they could carry, selling what they couldn't, saying goodbye to a life that had been too short and too hard and somehow still precious. On the third morning, they loaded the horses, took one last look at the ranch. The house his father built, the barn they'd burned defending their right to exist, the land that had been both prison and sanctuary. "Ready?" Nakoha asked. "No." Silas took her hand. "But let's go anyway." They rode west as the sun rose behind them, leaving behind everything they'd known, heading toward everything they hoped to become. And for the first time in either of their lives, they weren't running from something. They were running toward it. They rode for 6 days before Nakoha called a halt. Not because they'd found what they were looking for, because she collapsed off her horse and vomited into the grass until there was nothing left. Silas was beside her in seconds, hands on her shoulders, panic clawing at his throat. "What's wrong? Is it the baby? Are you?" "I am fine." She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "This is normal. Morning sickness. Though it should be called all-day sickness because it does not care what time it is. You should have said something. We could have stopped earlier. And lose daylight, no." She tried to stand. Her legs buckled. Though perhaps a short rest would not hurt. They made camp by a creek. Silas built a fire while Nakoha lay on her bedroll skin, pale and clammy. He'd never felt more useless in his life. "What can I do?" he asked. "Nothing. Just let it pass." She closed her eyes. "This happened with my mother. And her mother. First 3 months are worst. Then it gets better. 3 months. Maybe less. Maybe more. Every woman is different." She opened one eye to look at him. "Why are you regretting this already?" "No, just wish I could do something." "You are doing something. You are here. That is enough." She reached for his hand. "My husband was never here for this part. He would leave when women's business started. Said it made him uncomfortable." "That's stupid." "That was normal. Men did not involve themselves in pregnancy, in birth, in any of it." She squeezed his fingers. "But you are not normal. And I am grateful for that." He stayed with her through the worst of it. Held her hair when she was sick again. Brought her water in small sips. Talked about nothing to distract her from the nausea. By evening she was better. Able to eat a little, able to smile at his terrible jokes. "We need to find a place soon," she said. "Before I get too big to ride. Before winter comes. Before—" She stopped, listening. Silas heard it too. Horses. Coming fast. They were on their feet in seconds. Weapons ready. Nakoha's bow drawn despite her weakness. 2 riders burst through the trees. Not Cal's men. These were Apache. Young warriors' faces painted for war. They saw Nakoha and stopped. Started shouting in Apache. She shouted back. The exchange was rapid, angry, full of gestures Silas couldn't interpret. Finally, one of the warriors pointed at Silas. Said something sharp. Nakoha's response was sharper. The warrior spat on the ground. Then both riders turned and galloped away. "What was that about?" Silas asked when they were gone. "They were hunting party. Saw our tracks. Came to investigate." She lowered the bow. "They recognized me. Wanted to know why I travel with white man. Why I abandoned my people." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That I chose my own path. That you are my husband now." She looked at him. "I did not ask your permission to say that. Should I have?" "No." The word came out firm. Certain. "You should have said it sooner." Something in her expression softened. "We are not married in white way. No church. No papers. Don't care. Far as I'm concerned, you're my wife." He pulled her close. "Unless you don't want to be." "I want to be." She rested her head on his chest. "But Silas, those warriors, they will tell others. Word will spread that I am with white man. That I carry white man's child. There will be consequences. Let them come." "You say that now. But if my brother comes, if Kuruk comes with warriors who knew my husband, men who see our child as abomination." Her voice went tight. "I do not know if I can fight my own people again." "Then we make sure they never find us." He tilted her face up. "We keep moving. We find a place so remote even Apache scouts can't track us. We build a life so quiet nobody bothers to look." "That is a dream." "Then let's chase it." They rode for 4 more days, deeper into territory that had no name on any map Silas had ever seen, through passes so narrow the horses had to walk single file, across rivers that tried to sweep them away, up mountains that seemed to touch the sky, And finally, on the 10th day since leaving the ranch, they found it. A valley hidden between two peaks. Maybe 2 miles long, half a mile wide. A creek running through the center. Meadow grass tall enough to hide in. Trees for timber. Game trails everywhere. "This is it," Nakoha said. "Not a question, a statement." "You sure?" "I am sure." She slid off her horse, walked into the meadow, turned in a slow circle. "This is where we build. This is where we stay. This is where our child will be born." Silas looked around, saw what she saw. Isolation, safety, possibility. "Then let's get to work." They built the cabin in 3 weeks, not big, not fancy. Just 4 walls, a roof, a door that shut, but it was theirs, built with their own hands, with no one's permission, on land that belonged to no one and everyone and them. Nakoha showed him how to build Apache style, low profile, natural materials, blending into the landscape instead of dominating it. By the time they finished, you could walk within 50 yards and not see it. "Perfect," she said, standing back to admire their work. "It's small." "It is enough." She took his hand. "Anything more would draw attention. This way we are invisible, forgotten, free." They moved in that night, christened it by making love on the floor because they hadn't built a bed yet. Afterward, lying tangled together with the fire crackling and the wind howling outside, Silas felt something he'd never felt before. Peace. "I love you," he said into the darkness. "I love you too." She pressed closer. "Thank you." "For what?" "For choosing this. For choosing me. For being willing to give up everything you knew, for something you only hoped could exist." Her hand found his. "Not many men would do that. Not many women are worth it." He kissed her hair. "You are. You." Winter came hard and fast. They were ready for it, stocked with meat from Nakoha's hunts, with roots and dried berries she'd gathered. With firewood, Silas had spent weeks chopping and stacking. The snow fell for days. Weeks. Buried the valley in white silence that made the world feel small and safe and separate from everything else. Nakoha's belly grew, slowly at first, then faster. By midwinter she couldn't see her feet. By late winter she couldn't ride. "I am enormous," she complained one morning trying to stand from the bed. "You're beautiful." "You are liar. I am whale." "Beautiful whale." He helped her up. "How are you feeling?" "Like there is a person inside me trying to kick their way out." She pressed a hand to her stomach. "Active today. Feel." He put his hand where hers had been. Felt the flutter of movement. Tiny. Alive. Real. His child. Their child. Growing strong. "Have you thought about names?" he asked. "Many names. Cannot decide." She sat heavily. "If it is boy, I want to honor my husband, but I do not want our son to carry weight of dead man. If it is girl..." She stopped. "I do not know. Naming is hard." "We have time." "Less than you think. Baby will come with spring thaw, maybe sooner." She looked at him. "Are you ready to be father?" "No, but I'll figure it out." "That is what I said about being mother. But there is no figuring out, only doing." She took his hand. "Silas, I am scared. What if I do this wrong? What if I am not good mother? What if..." "You'll be amazing." He said it with absolute certainty. "You're the strongest person I know. You'll figure it out because that's what you do. You survive. Surviving is not same as thriving." "Then we'll do both." She smiled despite her fear. "You make it sound simple." Maybe it is. Spring came like an explosion. Snow melting overnight. Creek swelling. Green shooting up through dead grass. And with spring came the contractions. Nakoha woke him in the middle of the night, gripping his arm hard enough to leave bruises. It is time. Panic flooded him. Now, are you sure? I am very sure. She breathed through another contraction. Water broke an hour ago. Contractions are close. Baby is coming whether we are ready or not. They weren't ready. Had no midwife, no doctor, no experienced woman to guide them. Just Nakoha's memories of births she'd attended and Silas's complete ignorance. What do I do? He asked. Boil water. Get clean cloths. Build up the fire. She was breathing hard now. Focused inward. And do not panic. Too late for that. But he did what she said. Moved on autopilot. Following instructions. Trying not to think about everything that could go wrong. The labor lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of Nakoha's pain. Of her screaming. Of her gripping his hand so hard he thought bones might break. Of feeling utterly helpless while the woman he loved suffered. I cannot do this, she gasped during a particularly bad contraction. It is too much. I cannot. Yes, you can. He wiped sweat from her forehead. You're the woman who faced down warriors, who survived exile, who built a life from nothing. You can do this. That was easier. But she bore down anyway, pushed, screamed. And finally, as the sun rose over the mountains, their daughter was born. She came out screaming, loud and angry and perfect. Silas cut the cord with shaking hands, cleaned her gently, wrapped her in soft cloth, placed her in Nakoha's arms. Nakoha looked down at the baby and started crying. Not from pain, from joy so pure it hurt to witness. She is beautiful, she whispered. Look at her, Silas. She is perfect. He looked, saw a tiny face, dark hair, eyes that would probably be dark like her mother's, skin somewhere between his pale and Nakoha's copper. She's ours, he said, voice breaking. She's really ours. Yes. Nakoha kissed the baby's forehead. What should we call her? Silas thought about it. About his mother who died too young. About Dakota who never got to meet his child. About new beginnings and old endings. Hope, he said finally. We should call her Hope. Nakoha tested the name, smiled. Hope. Yes, that is good name, because that is what she is. Our hope for something better. The baby Hope settled against her mother's chest. Stopped crying. Just breathed. Existed. Was. And in that moment, everything they'd been through made sense. Every loss, every sacrifice, every impossible choice. It all led here, to this cabin, to this family, to this life they'd built from nothing but stubbornness and love. We did it, Nakoha said quietly. We survived everything, and we did it. Yeah. Silas kissed her, kissed the baby. We did. That first year was the hardest and best of Silas's life, learning to be a father, learning to survive without neighbors or help, learning that love was less about grand gestures and more about showing up every day. Hope grew fast, strong, healthy. She had Nakoha's eyes and Silas's stubbornness. By 6 months, she was crawling. By a year, she was walking. By 18 months, she was talking in a mix of English and Apache that made both parents laugh. They built a life in that hidden valley. Quiet, simple, hard. Nakoha taught Silas her language. He taught her to read. They taught Hope that she was both and neither, that she could choose who to be. Sometimes they saw smoke from distant fires, heard horses in the passes, but no one came looking. They disappeared so thoroughly the world forgot they existed. And that was fine by them. One evening 5 years after they'd arrived, Silas sat on the porch watching Nakoha teach Hope to shoot a bow. The girl was 7 now, tall for her age, fierce like her mother, gentle like her father. Higher, Nakoha was saying. Breathe out slowly. Let the arrow fly between heartbeats. Hope adjusted, drew, released. The arrow flew straight and true. Hit the target dead center. I did it. She jumped up and down. Did you see Papa? Did you see? I saw. Silas grinned. You're a natural. Nakoha walked over, sat beside him. They watched Hope run to retrieve her arrow. Do you miss it? Nakoha asked. The ranch, your old life, people. Silas thought about it, really thought. No, not even a little. Not even sometimes. Not even sometimes. He took her hand. Everything I need is right here. We are very lucky. Yeah, we are. Hope came running back, climbed into Silas's lap despite being way too big for it. Tell me the story again. Which story? About how you and Mama met. How you chose each other even though everyone said you shouldn't. How you ran away and built this place and had me. She looked up at him with those dark eyes. Tell me how brave you were. Silas and Nakoha exchanged a look. They'd told her versions of the truth, age-appropriate versions. Someday they'd tell her everything, but not yet. We weren't brave, Silas said. We were scared, but we did it anyway. That is what brave means, Nakoha added, doing the hard thing even when you are afraid. Were you afraid of Papa because he was white? Hope asked. At first, yes, but I learned that skin does not tell you who someone is. Heart does. She touched Hope's chest. Your Papa has good heart. That is what matters. And you weren't afraid Mama was Apache? Hope asked Silas. I was afraid of a lot of things, but losing her scared me more than anything else, so I chose to be brave, and it turned out to be the best choice I ever made. Hope hugged him tight. I'm glad you chose to be brave, otherwise I wouldn't be here. No, Nakoha said softly. You would not, but you are, and you are greatest gift we ever received. They sat there as the sun set. Three people who shouldn't exist together according to every rule the world had made. Three people who existed anyway. Who'd chosen love over fear. Who'd built something impossible and called it home. Tell me the ending, Hope said, already knowing it, wanting to hear it anyway. There is no ending yet, Silas said. Story is still being written. But what happens next? Next, Nakoha smiled. Next we live. We love. We teach you everything we know. We watch you grow into whoever you choose to be. We survive because that is what we do. That is what we have always done. And we do it together, Silas added. The three of us, no matter what. Hope thought about this, then nodded, satisfied. I like that ending. It is not ending, Nakoha corrected gently. It is beginning. And she was right. Because every day in that valley was a new beginning, a new choice, a new chance to prove that love could survive anything. That family was what you made it. That home wasn't a place, it was the people you chose to build a life with. Silas Brennan had started out alone, had expected to die alone. Instead, he'd found a woman who challenged everything he thought he knew, who taught him that bravery looked like standing between her and harm, who gave him a daughter that embodied everything they hoped the world could become. And Nakoha, who'd buried one husband and sworn never to love again, had found a man gentle enough to hold her through grief and strong enough to fight beside her. A man who chose her over safety, over comfort, over everything he'd ever known. Together they'd built something rare and precious. A life defined not by what they'd run from, but by what they'd run toward. By the choice they made every single day to choose each other, to choose love, to choose hope. Years would pass. Hope would grow up strong and proud and kind, would find her own path, her own love, her own story. And when people asked where she came from, she would tell them the truth. She came from two people brave enough to believe that love mattered more than blood. That family was choice, not obligation. That the future belonged to those willing to build it with their own hands. And every word would be true. Because that's exactly what Silas and Nakoha had done. They'd taken broken pieces and built something whole. Taken fear and transformed it into courage. Taken loneliness and turned it into family. They survived everything the world threw at them. Not because they were perfect, but because they refused to give up on each other. On themselves. On the idea that two people from different worlds could create something entirely new. And in the end, that was all that mattered. They loved, they fought, they survived, and they built a home where none had existed before.